Good evening. I understand your time is important. You have a lot of other stuff on YouTube to watch right now, but somehow you ended up here. So I won't take too long. My fellow Americans, there are so many voices currently being heard from every direction of belief that this Earth's population can represent. And of the many voices and many flags being raised, a select few are claiming attention from the bulk of our nation, its people, its media, and its government. I preface this by adding this video has a slim chance of seeing the light of the internet, and if it is viewable, who knows for how long. So in the meantime, I appreciate your time and continued watching above all. Now, my opinion is loud amongst my small little world. That's my family, coworkers, colleagues, anyone that will lend me their ear, and now apparently that's you. Thank you for coming. But I think that being part of the silent majority needs to end. I must raise the flag that many of us are, although they continuously attempt to silence us and force us to lower that flag again. We must keep raising it up and letting our voice back our vote, and not match but surpass the volume of those trying to cripple the people. Now, we voted and we watched as our vote was considered against all the morals of humanity. We were to be known as deplorable. All the while, self-conflicting, hypocritical actions were and are being taken by those that oppose us to begin with. Those that claim to be anti-fascist are completely based in socialism and government control and the subjugation of our nation's population. They peacefully protest for an hour and a half, and then they march across the street, turn into a mob, and start to destroy their own towns, villages, and cities. Tucker Carlson said we let it happen, and he's right. The Republican Party resigned to the wishes of domestic terrorism on our own streets. Instead of standing with our voice in opposition to their claims of fascism, racism, and bias, which they demonstrate in their own actions, the same things they are supposed to be against, we have allowed the destruction of our resources, morale, and justice system. And it is not just about law enforcement, but the keeping of peace for all our population. There is no question that no system is perfect, but one that is based on control by fear, aggression, certainly will only provoke warlike responses. They have only been met with tear gas and medium movements of counter-aggression to suppress their destructiveness, and now laws are being changed. If a full military and justice system response was used, the nation would be peaceful again. Rioters posing as protesters only weakens the First Amendment and does not allow those with the right to speak, that's you and everyone else, to be heard and respected for their words. Now, one could propose that any protest would sift out any aggressors and prevent them from assimilating with them and muddying their waters. Your voices are muted by their actions. As a protester, you must take responsibility in protecting your own flag and defending it from defacing flags rising up with you. This is why no civil person takes these protests nor riots seriously. The riots are receiving attention from the government because they're causing damage, not being heard. Lastly, the actions taken by these leagues and protesters demonstrates the complete opposite for what they claim to oppose: inequality. They serve to fix inequality with inequality. The hypocrisy is undeniable. Anyways, I can't applaud enough those who have come before me and have been so vocal and stood for the beliefs we voted for to begin with. I'm speaking of majors like Tucker Carlson, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, David Webb, and Andrew Wilkow, and many more. Also, other great conservative voices such as Breitbart News, Paul Joseph Watson, The Daily Wire, James Woods, David J. Harris Jr., Dana Loesch, Brandon Tatum, Damani Felder, and, of course, the Hodge twins. Love you guys. One of the problems is that most people pick where they listen to, and they listen to, I do this too, and I'm trying to learn to listen to both sides, and I will explain this and dive into this later. But if more people do what I'm doing right now, people that you know will watch your video or listen to you speak because they're not expecting you to sound like what you may end up sounding like. And you might make some sense to them. And somebody else might make some sense to you. So it never hurts to listen to everybody. In terms of people being vocal, this is just the tip of the iceberg for people that represent true freedom in our nation. There are thousands more that should be named. Also, there are voices from the blue side of the aisle that represent peace for our nation and prosperity for its citizens. The silent majority, though, must realize the only time left to stand up for ourselves is now. Now, I can claim all kinds of experience, military service, private sector work, blue collar, white collar, low income, middle income, but my background and experience do not provide me with the perception to attempt to unpack not only the national economic and political environment, but also the geopolitical and economic environment. There's too much stuff coming in from all sides, and so much of it is being focused in with a microscope and then moved over to this story and used for this narrative. Never are we getting the entire picture. In the end, I lean towards the words of people who speak the language that supports the freedoms I would like to enjoy in my life and for my family's lives as Americans. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's all just right-wing or left-wing, independent, freedom, patriotic, nationalist, constitutionalist, libertarian, conservative. I lean towards the words of people who speak the language that supports the freedoms I would like to enjoy. Think about that. And think about, are the words of the people that you're listening to support the freedoms and things that you want for your country? Is that what you're voting for? Is that person you voted for doing that? It's not always the case. Now, this word American currently seems to hold some sort of taboo or sin against it for somehow representing inequality, bias, or prejudice. Unfortunately, while the media, as we hear it called mainstream media, that's an effort to sift out real information from fake, places all of these representations directly into their broadcasting. Everything we are being shown and is being depicted indicates that we are not equal, but that many groups of our nation's citizens require special treatment and recognition. This is not for their achievements, but for their color, faith, orientation, and or beliefs. And this is a direct opposite for the fundamentals they themselves claim to hold as their foundations and values. Now, one simple example is a short play on words that I wrote. It's on Twitter. You can look it up. It's not getting any attention. Go give it a little attention. If the lives of those that matter to those that matter, then those that matter wouldn't be the number one murderers of those that matter. The lives of those that matter should matter more to those that matter. Why is there not a protest? Really just riots. Every time someone who matters takes the life of someone who matters. This is everywhere, every day, and we're only focusing on these little microcosmic events. And nationwide, there are deaths every day at their own hands. Chicago, Detroit, other major cities. I mean, nobody can contend with what's going on in Chicago. They're not even paying it any attention. And you'll never see this on your timeline in Facebook or in YouTube or anyone talking about it because they don't want you to hear about it. They don't want you to think about it, out of sight, out of mind. That way, they don't have to deal with it. And they'll just let you to continue to destroy your city because of something else that doesn't have nothing to do with this. The protests and riots are not about anyone that matters. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more simple. This thing I'm going to tell you is a false statement. Our two-party system in this country has brought us to the brink of true conflict. That's false. Pardon me. This is a true statement. Our media and primary news outlets have brought the country to the brink of true conflict. In all ways, it is easy to see that the mainstream media services are all backed by biased funding and backers. The elites of the left, liberal, and democratic unifiers have crafted this system to force the beliefs of their select everyone upon everyone. Instead of being able to only receive the words of your faith or beliefs in your church or place of discussion or conversations, we are being inundated with the lifestyles and beliefs of everyone else as though they are more important than us, and requires special attention. Of course, the counter-argument is that the media, as it was from the beginning, has always been biased, and only till recently has shown the side of one type of person, a white, Christian, married, with children, heterosexual population. While this is true and caused those that didn't live or exist this way to cry out for attention, we not only gave it to them, but we handed the entire system over for them to retool into whatever they wanted. What we considered normal and fair was no longer acceptable and is now considered biased and racist. The word normal is not acceptable, nor are the values that our nation was founded upon. But here's the catch. So far, the only thing we have stood up for, regardless of my pointless meandering, this is crazy talk, is the equality for all. For everyone to have the ability to break free from their station in life, no matter how they were raised, poor, rich, black, white, Christian, atheist. For everyone to have the ability to break free from their station in life, to live without the hierarchy of royalty, and for anyone to achieve greatness, peace, and prosperity. For all Americans to be treated equally, fairly, and just. Again, this points to the fact that no system is perfect, because all systems are based on our people, and not 100% of our population is good. And those that would do wrong, either as a regular person, i.e. criminal, or law or government official, i.e. criminal, same thing. The system should serve justice fairly for all. Lastly, the party needs to rise and get off our haunches. We have sat on our laurels and are stagnant, allowing our party to ride on the shoulders of a single individual, Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, allowing him to do all the work. We sit by and watch the show, thinking it requires no more action on our part, that we won. The battle is never over. Freedom is always at risk. This is completely wrong, and the reason the Democratic Party is starting to flourish again. They saw the fight ahead of them because of our one representative. They got knocked down. They licked their wounds and came back fighting. We need the voices of all freedom-desiring Americans to bring our country back into order. Now is not the time to stand still, to keep quiet, to stay offline, to ignore the ramblings of the news, the right or the left. As I mentioned earlier, listen to everyone. Listen to as many as you can, and then speak. I'm an American. I'm a veteran. I proudly serve my country and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. I refuse for the stain that many of our people are trying to place on our name as Americans, our own Americans, and make my voice audible for everyone to hear from sea to shining sea.